What's going on, everybody out there? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional. You already know who it is. Another podcast. You know, we've been putting in a lot of work. Thank y'all for joining us this evening. Really appreciate you. We got the God, Nakiim Bey, in the building this evening. Financial Literacy 101. Understanding trust and building wealth. Now, here's the thing, right? So we're going to give y'all a brief history, and then it's after the brief history, we're going to go straight into trust. Here we got the brother Nakiim Bey. How you doing, brother?
People, brother, I'm doing great. How you doing?
Life is good. Life is good. Working and grinding as usual. That's what I do.
Okay. All right.
Morning tonight, man. That's what I do. Grind. So, real quick, brief history. I know Nakiim Bey some years. I've known Nakiim Bey since probably 2000. I don't know, 10. When did you do the Clock of Destiny on 125th Street?
It was 1994 is when
No. When you brought the Clock of Destiny back in the 2000s, you remember at the lodge?
Oh, you mean the large perspective of it? Yeah, that was like early 2000. But the Clock of Destiny was reinstated by me in 1994, and there's many elder gods who also dealt with the Maori science that was present. So yeah, 94 is when it became official, but early 2000 is when the Masonic part manifested on the esoteric side.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was around Nakiim Bey when that happened. In fact, I don't know if you remember, God, but I was the one who got the spot over there in the lodge on 126. No, it was 124th Street. 124th Street AM. I forgot AM FM.
Yeah, for Hiring Grand Lodge.
That one. That's
it's not there no more, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I was around Nakiim Bey at that point, and he's still putting the work in. Just give him a brief history, because you're also known as the God, 5%. So
Indeed.
from what I know, that's your beginning.
Absolutely.
And then you went into Masonry. So that's what I know about you. So if you can kind of give people a brief history of that, and then we go straight into the trust.
Absolutely. So at the age of 15, I got involved with the study of the 5% nation of gods and earths. And I got 120 lessons in 6 months. My man Kashim, Allah, he got it in 7 months. We built together. We was taught about the god named Allah Culture, right? Unfortunately, we was around Freedom, firstborn Freedom, also known as Uhura. And being around those great gods, I God, and Just Allah and Young God, called God Supreme, it helped us get 120 degrees within the time frame that it did. But I know I heard one God named Science got 120 degrees within 3 days, something like that. All right. But that was way back in history. And it was that science that led me into the Maori science. You're talking about around 1983, and then I was curious after I had 120 degrees, and I went to the science of masonry. I remember asking the God, I had 120 degrees at that time about masonry, about studying masonry. God said, you want to be like a cucumber and vinegar and come out a cucumber. Don't go into vinegar, come out a pickle. That means you have fell victim. And I had 120 degrees there, and I understood what the gods basically shared with me, And that understanding basically allowed me to understand my foundation as being God, the original man, and take this head knowledge further than many have done, right? 120 degrees has allowed me to navigate, but I still be the God, because the black man definitely is God, regardless of whom or what. And so masonry and Maori science was a added science, but mathematics that the law gave us is what taught us to master all sciences that we go into, with gods and every degree that I studied in life, whether it's our lessons or it's college degrees or certifications. Like Messiah said, that they are called plus degrees, So studying law and finance, I had that experience. And so now being 15, and now I'm almost 60. It's a big jump, but I'm still the true living God.
Indeed, God. So now you go from 5% Nation to Masonry. So what gets you? We're gonna go more into your history later on, like in next episode or whatever. But now I want to talk about peace. Ben, peace of Ben, Asiatic soldier, peace to you, South
Salute,
Jersey,
salute.
Shalom, always in the check-in. So
Oh, before you go further on, peace, Nakeem.
People,
That's
brother.
part
Peace,
part
peace.
part of the lateness. I was logging in.
it's
Peace
all
to you,
good.
brothers.
It's all good. So now, we'll get into your history more later, because to me, you're legendary out here. To me, like
Thank you, brother.
that's how I view you. I
Thank you.
have high respect for you. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? But how did you get into trust and financial literacy and things like that?
Mm. I got into trust. I'm a certified paralegal.
Mm.
And in paralegal studies, you learn about trust through estate planning, right? And trust is really the concept of sovereignty. And sovereignty meaning absolute independence from attachments, right? Freedom, right? And trust in this case, it meant um, economic security, right? Now, estate planning, right? There's a court question mark there. I learned that as well. So, from the paralegal perspective, I learned the specific substance of trust law. Um, and fortunately, with an F, fortunately, undergrad, I have a BA, right? I had several law classes, you know, and also I went to Cambridge Law School in England. Due to hardship, I never finished, but nonetheless, that mind frame, that set consciousness, allowed me to see things from a independent perspective of family legacy, security, right? So I attach sovereignty with trust. Um, and that's what really led me to it, to understand that trust is very valuable and is more superior than a will, right? And it grants more control and management within the family dynamics or a company, you know. And so applying it to myself, my own family, and looking at our people, where they may really need this here, I think it's time to so much, express that component.
Okay. So
Mhm.
now, as far as filing a trust and like what to do with that trust exactly, how much does it cost to file a trust?
Hmm.
And from that point, once you file, because like coming up in like the Moorish movement, if you're not, I don't want to call it the renegade Moors, right? Right. But I'm gonna use that for today. All
I
right.
say it, renegade Moors,
I,
Absolutely,
the
absolutely.
packet sellers,
I'm gonna say renegade Moors for lack of a better term, right?
packet sellers.
So, like, before you go into the temple, before I went into the temple, I was into the patriarch mixture and things like that. So you go and you file a UCC and you do this and you do all of this stuff, and there was really no goal in that. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm of course a trust is completely different, and I think that from my perspective, we go and we file things and we just leave it as is and we don't really do much with it. And it's just like, oh, I just got to trust now. So how much does it cost? And what is it? What is the process of filing a trust?
Sure. All right. First question. A trust can run, well, I do trust, right? From 2,500 to 10,000 based on the assets and the mechanics that qualifies that. You might have a house, you might have homes, right? You might have tangibles, gold and other things, jewelry, right? You have to appraise, um, and you might have cars, and you have policies of insurance, and
Mhm.
you have retirement assets, right? So there's a whole component that involves putting that in a trust. There's a whole process, you know. I just got finished doing a trust for attorney actually This month. Yep, this month. And just understanding that the whole key was not to file or file, right? You give them the option, right? And the choice was not to file because the trust is not mandatory to be recorded within the courts, only a will upon dispute. So the fee can be 2,500 upward, especially if you have assets. Now, if you have no assets, then I'll mark it for 2,000 because it's the mechanic that goes into it. The mechanics, right?
Mm-hmm.
The grantor, that's the boss. All right? Trustee, the manager, the keeper, those who are responsible for the assets going in and going out. Right? Then you have the beneficiaries.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those that will actually inherit the assets, the benefits, now or the future. Right? So that's a chess game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a contract among parties. Right? Grantor, trustee. Right? So therefore, inside there's consideration, the assets.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's a contract. Now you have those that's going to inherit it. They're initiated as a party to the contract. You see? So what goes into it is a lot of mechanics. And you can see that it's very strategic. Right? And I'll give you an example. I mentioned attorney, right? I say I did one in the past 3 or 4 months, right? One this month and one about 2 months ago. So this is a house. The grantor wants to assure that Ron sees the house. That means that a new deed had to be created in your name. And the grantor got transferred over to you. Now, the grantor capacity depends on if he or she would like to still have attachment to it, or if they want to not have attachment to it and is owned by the trust and the trustees therein.
I got it. I have a question. You said the mechanics of it behind it. What's involved is the appraisal of each item, such and such as ironclad. It's like a business is separated from the actual person. It becomes its own entity, basically, right?
Absolutely.
Got you.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I like you said, because you mentioned a separate entity.
Mm-hmm.
See, within the law, many more share this, but in
Mm-hmm.
law, you learn this here. You have the natural person, and you have the artificial person.
Right. The straw man.
Right. Straw man is the artificial, the natural is flesh and blood. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want an irrevocable trust with no attachment, but yet control, then you want to establish a straw man, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want one that is still managed by the owner, the grantor, you want a revocable trust.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is more accommodating? Which one is most secure? It depends on actually, again, what you want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, Brother Ron, and you hear, see, many Moors have received abstracts and extracts of solvent materials, but there's no legal backing. You got to do legal research, right? You know, you can't even give legal advice, right? And every case is different. You know, I got right now a case still in the process of establishing. This person has property in the South
Mm-hmm.
and got property here in New York. How do you work that out? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You put it all in a trust? You put all your eggs in one basket?
No.
Exactly.
All right.
So what do you use? Go ahead, brother.
No, it sounds like correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like a trust is like has an S corp structure. It's all based on structuring of basically protecting your actual assets and just leaving it on to the straw man, basically.
Yes, yes, the straw man, as long as it is irrevocable, and you are correct. You know what I'm saying? It's about controlling, not owning, right? Owning is a threat to your assets, to your family legacy,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm the president of a company, I'm the president of this corporation. So they ask you, even in terms of employment, do you own a business? They're going to attach you to the business.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Okay, so I wanted to start from the ground, rise up. So trust, right? We talk about when you talk about a trust. When we think about trust, is like the definition is like you trust someone, you know, like that, like general in a general sense. But like in legalese, what's the definition?
A trust primarily is a compact between parties. Again, it is a contract. You understand? Trust definitely, you could say, so we cannot always come from the generic. We got to come from more divine perspective. I'm gonna give you my authority to match my trust. Can I trust you?
Mm,
You understand?
got you.
I have to depend on you to manage my assets. Because if I don't, my children are going to suffer if I don't manage it right. And the big question with that, I will say, is this here: Can a will be probated? Yes. Can a trust be probated? No slash yes.
Okay, no slash yes. What do you mean?
You are managing Brother Fever um, trust. Y'all brothers, right? Now, he's going to inherit it, the benefits. But you are not being transparency about how you managing the funds. He's going to accuse you of failing to be transparent, right? And mismanagement of funds.
Mm,
Because that there alone, he will bring you in court, right?
mm, mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen? You might be found guilty. All the judge is going to do is replace you with another trustee with the dynamics of the family. That case is Howard versus Howard. Howard, like diversity, Howard versus Howard. 2019. That's a year in Florida. A actual case,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you can see also, what I'm sharing with you is legalese, right? And the reference point of law, right? Trust is a binding contract, and it can be breached. This is why, like the brother shared, in indirectly, you got to be architecture. You got to be not just a strategist, but an architecture.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen many YouTube pieces, right? Right? But I got to understand the family dynamics and what you want to accomplish. So a trust is definitely, again, a contract, and contract take legalese,
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
not guesswork.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you this question. So, what do you say about people who say that you can take your whole life insurance policy and put it into the trust? I don't know like the exact terminology, but hold on a second. Okay, okay, that's peace. That's peace. Woodsell and Woodsell. So what do you think about that? Is that possible? Have you heard of that before, where you could take the whole life insurance policy, put it into the trust? Have you heard of it?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll give you an
Okay.
example, right? Can you have a trust if you're not wealthy? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We, we're going to prorate it. We're going to do a whole life policy. And upon the decease of Jane Doe or John Doe, the value of that trust is going to be put in that trust. You understand?
Right.
It can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the same time, if you're living, you can do it. But I'm telling you, right? You have to architecturally design
Yeah.
the trust to qualify it for acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say it because my clients is very clear, and you asked a question earlier, right, about filing it for the records. Avoid that if it's going to be irrevocable. But you want to put your accounts in the trust. Through experience, the bank is going to say, "Thank you. I'm going to send it up to the law department."
Mm-hmm.
It goes up, and whoever put together that trust got to know what they're doing.
I got it. What you're saying. I got it. Now I get it. Well, he's basically with the life insurance, right? And again, I could be wrong, but this is what I'm seeing from what you're drawing. They could put that whatever if you're not wealthy. Say you got life insurance policy for like say 40, 50,000. You put it in the trust, being that the trust will be its own entity, its own business with its own number, everything else, because it has to have a number that's filed with along with it.
Absolutely.
From there, it opens up a line of credit. You can do that too to allow it to double up, right? To a certain degree.
No, the trustee is going to have to. First of all, the insurance policy cannot even be touched. It is accrued cash value accrued cash value over time.
Yes.
You don't touch that, especially the person still living.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever stipulation is in that trust, they give you the power to do regarding that trust.
Yeah.
That determines what you can and cannot do.
Gotcha.
That trust is still in a person's name.
I got you. All right.
So your question was yes, it can be done. Right. Either way, but it's all how that trust is set up.
The structuring. Got you.
Yes.
Okay. So let's run through like a structure. Let's say like a mock sample, right? Let's say if I have a couple cars, houses, some rental properties, 401k. I have a whole life insurance policy, and maybe some other things, some other assets. Maybe a boat, maybe some bikes. I don't know. I mean, what can be put in a trust and what can't be put in a trust?
Everything you mentioned can be put in a trust, but the 401k you don't have to. But see, my question is again, who are the ones that's going to inherit it, the benefits? Who going to be the trustees, right? And you're talking about multi homes. You said, you said multi real estate properties,
right?
You're talking about LLCs,
right?
Yep.
You're talking about who going to manage LLCs, right? I mean, I can do it. It's going to cost you, right? And my thing is to secure your wealth, to have generation wealth, not to drain you. You can pay me to maintain it, to manage it. But at the same time, if you got to keep people in place, they'll manage LLCs. If you got 5 homes, you got now 5 LLCs.
That's a fact.
You got about 15 acres of land, 2 or 3 LLCs. Now, the question is, how come so many? It should not be made easy to access. It's about complicating the matter from creditors and frivolous litigators.
I like this conversation because that's what I was looking at. Because I'm happy that you came on the show to talk about this. And again, as Ron said, you're a legend. I purchased a book from you back in 2012. You probably don't remember. It was the CM Bay Clock of Destiny. I know we spoke on the phone, but I purchased that. But I love where this conversation is going because I really started getting more into this. Although I did it in school, but they never teach you like the backstories till after, like you start going behind the story to read about these things with the structure. Right. And, to that common person, it will be viewed as illegal if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You get caught up in the loopholes. And that's why we have different tax laws and stuff like that in place. But it's true what you said is about separating yourself from your personal assets and finances from the straw man. Because, not to go on a long tangent, but it's like a situation as we see today with the whole Sean Combs stuff. Like people think that Bad Boy itself is being sued. but it's him personally, but it's not his business. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see what he did. He caught some trademark with his name and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, he's protected.
Right. You know, you mentioned that, and the legend, African Ben Bottom. You know who he is, right? Ben Bottom.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yes.
20 years ago. I remember when he wanted me to deal with his assets. And I mentioned his name because I'll tell you why I mentioned his name, right? When I went to, because I'll mention my clients' names, period, right? But that fell through on my side. I'll tell you why. So, bottom line, we were both together in Sony downtown around 57th Street, right? Madison Avenue.
Mhm.
And the big attorney, sitting down. And I realized that all of his businesses was sole proprietor. That means his social security number was being used for that purpose. I'm like, wow. And so I dealt with Nevada regarding some things. I was in the process. But because I was not a member of the Zulu Nation organization, some people were not favorable of me managing that situation. And I had to pull back, right? You know, um, but it's very important to deal with those who have both sides. You know,
Mhm. Okay. So now you said that he had a sole proprietor and everything. So everything basically leads back to that person, right?
right?
So that would be the wrong business structure for that person.
Absolutely. Why would you put all your properties, all your assets under your social security number?
Right.
And so
So
they sue you.
Mhm.
You got to liquidate all the assets to satisfy the debt.
Right. So why LLC and not a S corp?
A S corp is primarily managing taxes, right? Right. That's minimized taxes. LLC, it's a hybrid. It's a partnership. I'm be honest now. Here you go. Watch me. It's a partnership and it's an Inc.
Mm.
Right. Now, there's one thing I got to tell you. I do a lot of LLCs. I just did a few business evaluations of my client to see their health condition in terms of the business this month. If you're a member among members, you're an owner, right? I know how it goes. If one is no longer there, the whole company, the whole LLC can dissolve. I believe in not being on the radar, period.
Mm.
I am that guy. My
Yep.
thing is get in the resolutions, established in bylaws, have your next meeting, and play chess. Right? If I'm concerned, anything that Alphabet City give you and give you thumbs for, is always a question mark. There's something always to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, mind me, I'm never going to advocate evade law. We don't evade law. We avoid law. In finance, I learned this here. At the beginning of the year, claim 9 dependents. You're saying to the IRS, you pay me first. In 6 months, I'm going to mark 0. I pay you.
That's a fact. Can I get a gun? Give him a gunshot for that, Ron. that's a fact. Yep.
I learned that in financial planning. That's legal. You're not evading, you avoiding. You're not saying I'm not going to pay you anything. You're saying I need my 6 months capital right now. I'm going to invest this money in something, and I'll pay you on the back burner. In 6 months, I'm going to mark 0. Now you get it back. Simple. All right? You learn that in financial, planning. I got a diploma in financial planning, license in New York, other products. But nonetheless, You know, you got to know how to avoid and not evade. So I don't believe in volunteering my freedom,
Mm.
right? I don't believe in disclosing assets where assets don't need to be disclosed. You see, so I'm coming from, you know, a legal perspective, a family responsibility perspective. I make it hard for your children that's going to inherit these benefits because you ain't set it up correctly, or someone's not giving you the proper information or reference. Like I said, Howard versus Howard, right?
Mhm.
Right? You need facts, reference points. Go ahead.
So now LLC, right? So it's a hybrid. It's an Inc. and it's a I forgot the other thing you said,
Partnership.
and a partnership.
Right.
So what are the benefits of having an LLC versus having an S corp?
LLC is mostly it is control and partnership and not so much S. Like I said, I didn't do so many S corps. I did a few, but I always knew they always wanted to minimize the tax returns. You understand?
Mhm.
Right? Structure and family, that's going to be the LLC or the Inc. All right?
Mhm.
Inc is involved a little bit more. But S corp only comes in when you want to save taxes, not to manage and regulate your assets.
Would it be easier to get loans from banks if you're a in funding with an S corp?
You can still get it. Doesn't matter. S corp, LLC, Inc, even S. You know what's more accommodating to the bank? Well, always, I would say Inc or LLC. But what I'm going to say was more acceptable would be your credit and the business credit,
Right.
because they can look at that. Because usually they want your EIN number
Mhm.
and they want your individual social security number.
Now with the trust, if you could give people the rundown of how a trust is structured, you have the trustees and the beneficiaries, right? So how many trustees can you have? How many beneficiaries can you have? And where are they on in the food chain, so to speak, or in the pyramid, so to speak?
I like that.
There's no limit to the trustees nor the ones that's going to inherit it. I mean, I did a trust for almost as 5 kids, different ages. You know, the trustees, you know, it doesn't matter. You
Okay, so
understand?
real
But
quick. Okay, my bad, my bad.
the trustees are all about managing what you give them to manage, to regulate it. Because a grantor, you either gave them partial authority or full based on the type of trust you established. The
Okay.
beneficiaries, they're just sitting around waiting. That's why I said to you earlier, you're a trustee, and one brother sued the other brother, Howard versus Howard, sued the other brother, all because under the impression that the trust is wrong. Something is wrong because what I'm getting is not fair. It seemed like I'm taking the court. You see what I'm saying? So all based on the structure you provide. So the benefits aren't just sitting back. Listen, I'm looking forward to my assets. you know,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That's it. Okay. And the trustee's job is to make sure that it happens. You can have 3 or 4 trustees, but let's be honest. You don't want too many trustees because
Of course,
family. As we say, family is always questionable, right? You know, when you
That's
put
crazy. That's crazy. Hold on. Damn.
you
That's
know
wild, man.
you put family. I mean, you can pull a attorney look over. You know what I'm saying? But you have attorneys that are crooked.
Mm-hmm.
Have code of conduct and ethics. You know, so you got to really vet this
And
individual.
lawyers watching lawyers, as
Right,
Biggie
right,
said.
right. I mean, it's about credentials, right? How solid are your credentials? How solid is your background? right? I can show you certificates that I got specializing in asset protection.
Now let's say you pass on, right? And then you have your trustees and they basically okay, for lack of a better term, who's going to get what. So how would those assets would be like recovered by the beneficiary?
because primarily it's already in the trust how it's to be dispersed.
Ah, okay.
For example, the house, for example, I mentioned earlier, right? Or the cars, or the accounts that I'm aware of, right? Right? Even in New Jersey, my client in New Jersey, right? It's already recorded what's done and what's already been filed. The house cannot be. I mean, the bill itself for the house cannot be drafted after the fact. It got to be drafted before,
Yeah.
right? Because as a trustee, you're not doing any of that. You're just hands on with delivering, paying out any debt. Because if there's a house, you know, if there's a house and there's still a mortgage on the house and taxes, the trustee job is to pay those mortgages and taxes.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a car note, right? If you got a car note, the same thing. You got to pay that car note.
Gotcha.
That's a trustee's job to do. So the same thing with disbursements of the assets.
Mm. Gotcha. That's very, very informative, brother. So if you have an LLCs, basically don't put yourself as a sole proprietor. Basically, you're saying put yourself as a member of the board or something like that.
If you're LLC, you're a member.
Yeah.
If you're a sole proprietor, it's just you.
Okay, got you.
It's just you as an individual. That's it.
Nice. That's dope. All right. Well,
Okay, now how would I put the LLCs under the trust?
You gotta sign it over. Like the house, the same thing. You gotta sign it over. I mean, I've actually did an LLC and put it in the trust. You see, between you and the trust, because the state was only the creator of LLC. That's it. LLC is a creature of the state. That's all. All taxes and annual filings, reportings, and all compliances with the state, whether New York State $9, or whether it's reporting change in officers every year, a change, or whether it's Delaware, right? It is a trustee's job to stay on top of all that, unless attorneys and so forth got involved, and they're part of that makeup.
Okay, we got a question from the chat. Do you need a trust for a 508c1a, or those have nothing to do with the other?
Is that I'm not familiar with that one. Is that the nonprofit?
probably sounds like that.
That's what it sounds. Well, 501.
No. I know about 7 and 3 and 8. That's not that. The CLA.
508C, yeah. I think that's C1A.
C1A.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Says refers to provision in the Internal Revenue Code that exempts certain churches. Okay.
Religious.
Yeah. Right, because I remember that section, but it fell under the whole status, right? Well, see, I'm going to expound on that a little bit. When it comes to churches and religious associations, because if you have one, you'll see it says down below religious bodies involved, right, by the name. Answer your question. A not-for-profit doesn't own anything. When a not-for-profit is dissolved, all assets return to the community. Right? So there's no trust involved in that. Now, if you have staff and they have personal investments, that's different. You see, but in terms of putting a 501c3 in a trust, I don't find that um, within the boundaries of that law. I'll look into it, but nonprofit is a whole other entity.
Right. Indeed.
Gotcha.
Indeed. So now, as far as the trust is concerned, you already broke down the basics, right? So you have trustees, beneficiaries, and you already gave us basically the basics of it. Now, basically, what you were saying is like to complicate things to make it hard for people to access your assets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you give me an example of that?
Well, it's simple. I'm looking for Ron Brown's assets. Somehow, I only found one. I didn't find the other three. Right?
Okay.
If everything was all in one, you have access to all your assets. Right? You
Okay.
understand?
Okay.
It might be a holder company where there's no mark, there's no use of any commercial business. Somebody goes from a trust to a LLC to a holding company.
A holding company. So explain that right there.
All as a whole, no business.
So how is that possible? Okay, so the holding company, that's like another LLC, let's say for instance, right?
Yes, different name.
Different
Di-
name.
I said different names.
Different name.
Right.
Okay.
So remember, and it's very important. I make this very clear. It's not about not paying taxes, right? You with me?
Mhm.
It's about someone who fell in front of your house and now claiming a lawsuit. A car stopped in front of your wife or your kids. I mean, if in front of somebody, and they claiming that who was in the car, your family, they now having a lawsuit, right?
Mhm.
You know, it's about locking things in for your family. It's about protection. It's about legacy. You understand, right?
Mhm.
So when you set up all these entities, you have creditors, right? The first thing they do, they want to hire an attorney, do asset protection. I mean, asset search, right? But if there's nothing in your name, and it's in 1,000 names, right? They can't find anything. You're not doing anything fraudulent. You're just making matters complicated for the search, and it's legal.
Yeah. The president does that. There's a lot of things he have done out from reading his books. Like he knows the ins and out of business.
Right.
People could say, chapter 40, bankruptcy whatsoever. And I just want to clear it up for people. Bankruptcy doesn't mean that you're flat broke. It means that you're protecting your assets. So it kind of works like that with a trust, right?
Right.
Got you.
Asset trust. Let's be clear. Trust is to prevent the credit lawsuits. Divorces, right? Mad creditors, right? You gotta save your wealth. A trust, my brothers and sisters that may be on this call, is all about protecting your assets so that the next generational wealth family members can inherit it without any incumbents.
Boom.
It's about generational wealth. It is managed appropriately
Right.
by trustees.
Now,
It's not.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, God. You got it. You got it.
Yeah, it is not. And I emphasize because I know you mentioned the word more earlier, and a lot of these so-called mores, they're about evading, find some kind of illegal something to do, right? And I emphasize that trust is not for that. There's no common law trust, blah blah. You know what I mean, right? And certain states have their own laws regarding trust as well. This is what I got to share with you. Every state has their own laws. When I did a trust, a couple in New Jersey, there was a law Then if a child a certain age, there's a law regarding that. You know, and then there's an age factor, not with the child, but with the grantor. You know, even the trustees is an age factor called competency, right? You know, so you can see a lot of things goes into play than just trust this, trust that. No, don't trust anything. You know,
Right.
qualified.
Qualified.
Yeah, that's smart.
Now, Sue Lee asked if is it legal to pay your children via your LLC?
Absolutely, if they are on the books. Absolutely, if they're on the books, certain age, qualified. I don't care if they're sweeping. I don't care if they're just monitoring whatever it may be as security, helping out. You know, after a certain amount of money they receive
Mm-hmm.
that year, definitely you got to report it. But they're on the books. LLC like an ink. You know, yes.
What's the benefits for letting that for setting a business up that way where you can pay your children?
Well, first of all, a few reasons. Number one, learn the business.
Right.
Family's business.
Right.
It's the first
Right.
rule.
You know.
Family's business.
Number two, a business is not set up just for self gratification. You know, you're talking about wealth succession planning, right?
Right.
Right. Um, um, and hey, great question. You know what I'm saying? Why not employ your children? You know, right? You have a bookkeeper or accountant to make sure all the taxes are properly allocated to the levels of government. Your books are current because I say this because of compliance. You know, I have set up business formations, and if you already know, it's about state and federal compliance. You know, and I think Trump, one thing, I'm not a Trump fan in that sense, right? Well, in this sense, right? But when he came out with when under the previous administration, there was a transparency law that was in place. Remember that? That every company had to file with the federal government, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I managed a state for a well-known family, and I notified the family. I filed with the state. Within about a month later, what happened? It went to court. It went to court. When Trump came, he got rid of it, right? But you know, if you're not in compliant with state or federal regarding taxes or timely filing, you'll get penalized, you get fined, and if
Mhm.
not properly directed, you'll lose your business. So
Mhm.
I say regarding the one I mentioned about the LLC, absolutely, yes, you can employ anyone, but family first, right?
Right. Right. Okay. She says that's like 12K yearly. I guess that depends on what you feel like you can pay them.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, I forgot the amount that you have to report. I don't know, over 600 or six, I think it's over 600. Yeah, but that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. And now, what's their age? Are they in school? You know, right? Um, Part time, full time, all it has a play in this here. You
You know,
know,
with all the studying we did about all that UCC and all that, this is what we should have been studying right here.
Exactly.
now, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you. See, when they had UC 1-207 and 3 and so forth out, you know, um, there was a advantage. You know, if you had knowledge of the law, right? You know, and I'm gonna give you an example. You know, um, well, yeah. This is not an asset protection issue, right? This is primarily a business issue that I dealt with. I saved someone's house for being confiscated due to UCC codes.
Mm.
And you're 125, right? Um, Watkins health food store.
Yeah. Why?
Right.
Mm.
It's his house. He knows me. And that was some years back. But I didn't see the advantage, my brothers, and those on this call. You have to have knowledge of the law. I don't mean the sovereignty stuff. A lot of these cats, they put in their heads, don't know what they're doing.
That's
You
a
know
fact.
Messiah Bay, right? You know Messiah Bay, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Messiah Bay is a paralegal. He finished. He went to school downtown, NY State Paralegal School.
Mm-hmm.
If I call him, I say, "Hey, G, I need a case checked out." He would do it, right? You need somebody that can do the research on UCC and other cases. You see what I'm saying? That's the advantage of knowing the law. No guesswork. They're doing findings for you, research. They're not giving you legal advice.
Okay.
That's a fact. You got to reference it. Many of them don't have case points to prove. They just say, well, according to this, would you like cite a case where that was used? They can't. They
Right.
just be like,
Gotcha.
I love her question because I'm very keen on family. Trust is all about generational wealth.
mhm.
Inc. LLCs is all about generational wealth. It's about showing that your family, your children, will have something 15 and 20 and 30 years out. But as she had that question, while they're in the business, they learn the business. And they learn how to run the business moving forward.
Right, indeed. Before we cut out, is there anything else that you want to add on to this before we cut out?
What I would say, as we say, right? Don't take anything on face value. Number one, right? Number two, consider the trust, LLC, and when you advance, consider a family bank,
Mhm.
right? Learn about investments because here goes the trust. We want to also feed the trust, right? So learn the basics of investing. I'll have you 2 or 3 investors, right?
Mhm.
Because a trust is not just a holder. It is a dynasty. And look it up, a dynasty trust. But usually it's for like the real wealthy, right? It is a dynasty you're building, an empire you're building. So think as trust as a contract to secure and protect your family name, your family brand.
Mhm.
And the whole key is generational wealth, bottom line.
Indeed. On that note, thank you for coming out, God. Nakiim
Yeah,
Bey, the legend of
appreciate
the
it.
building. Really appreciate you.
Yeah.
And we are out of here. Peace to everybody on the chat. See y'all in the next episode coming on in 7 minutes, 8 o'clock. See y'all soon. And peace.
Peace.
Peace, Almighty. Peace.
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 Peace.